Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 879A, and today's date is January 28th, 2016, and the title of the episode is IMF Wants to Impose a Wealth Tax to Pay Down the World Debt. Now, before I get started, I just have an announcement to make. The interview with G. Edward Griffin and Petrea Patrick has now been uploaded to the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So you can go right over to YouTube, you can view the video there, or you can come over to the x22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the video there, or you can go to newssentinel.com, you can scroll down, look over to your right, you'll see the video on that site. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Well, it seems since the beginning of this year, 2016, we have not received any good news in the economy whatsoever. All the important economic indicators are all pointing to a recession/depression/collapse scenario. And as time goes on, it is getting worse and worse. We talk about layoffs, we talk about store closings, we talk about housing. We talk about all of these things, and they're starting to take a toll on the economy, where the central bankers of the U.S. government, they can't hide it anymore. It's becoming way too difficult. There was a time where they tried to convince us that no one was applying for unemployment insurance, and they're trying to convince us that initial jobless claims, is at its lowest point ever. And this is getting very difficult to keep under control because as more and more people lose their jobs in retail, in the energy sector, in the tech sector, which is coming up, in corporations which are seeing mass layoffs, people have to apply. People have to make the claims because they cannot find the jobs out in the market today. And in the past, I said, people would send out their resumes and they would get no answer back. Actually, today people are writing into me saying there's no place to send my resume. And I'm starting to hear from a lot of people where this is really becoming a very difficult situation for a lot of people where they have no place to send their resume to get that job. College graduates are having a very difficult time, and all these students who have these student loans, it's going to be very, very difficult to make these payments. And this is why they have these modifications to help out. And it's based on income. Think about that for a second. So if you're making $15,000, $20,000 a year, your payments are based off of that because they realize there are no high-paying jobs. And we're seeing that initial jobless claims, they're at cycle highs right now at 285,000. We are at and going towards an upward trend. We've been in a downward trend and everything has reversed right now. Yahoo, another tech company, is going to begin layoffs in Latin America. They're going to be shutting down the offices in Mexico, Argentina, and they will come here to lay off the people. I mean, it's starting to spread all over the place. Remember, we had a report that said the tech industry is going to see something like 300,000 plus jobs removed from what we have right now. And that number is going to be double that. And where are these people going to find work? And we're starting to see this occur already. We see out in the real estate market, pending home sales disappoint. They only moved up by 0.1%. They thought they were going to rise by 0.9%. This completely missed. We are in a downward trend of home sales right now. Actually, home sales, if you look since 2008, has been flatlined. It has gone nowhere. And it makes sense that it has gone nowhere. Why? Because home ownership right now remains near multi-decade lows. This is coming from the U.S. Census Bureau, which they reported home ownership is at 63.7%. And that was in the fourth quarter of 2015. It is continually declining. So if less people own homes, how can they be convincing us that housing is doing well? Housing is improving. It's impossible. Again, someone's lying. And we know who it is. They're trying to make us believe that the economy is doing fine. And if we go back to 2004, home ownership was at 69.4%. We're not even close. The whole thing's falling apart right in front of our eyes. Durable goods, washers, those big ticket items, it completely crashed. I mean, it has crashed by 5.1%. And this is far below Wall Street forecast. And we're seeing a complete plunge in shipments of new orders. They have collapsed by 7.5%. This is the worst since Lehman, and we know what happened during Lehman times. The Great Recession, where we had to bail out these banks with taxpayer money. And then the Fed came in and started creating money like crazy, buying up the toxic real estate, creating the illusion that the economy is improving. So what this means with durable goods is that it is screaming and calling out to everyone, recession's coming, recession's coming, recession's coming. We are in negative territory with durable goods. And every single time we were in negative territory, you know what that tells everyone? Recession. That's what it says. We are headed towards a recession. And I'm going to say it's going to be not a recession. We're already in the recession. We're already in the depression. We're going to see a complete and utter collapse of the system. Caterpillar has confirmed, and actually their sales are much worse for December. They tumbled to 23%. 23% in the fourth quarter. It was much worse than anyone thought. And this shows, once again, which is an indicator of what's going on out there, that things have gone from bad to horrific. And their revenue has completely dropped. And basically they're saying they don't see any type of improvement anytime soon. The Baltic Dry Index dropped again by 12 points. We are down now to 325. At this point, are we going to hit zero? It is dropping every single week. And even if it pumps up and goes to 50 points, it's still awful. Even if it goes to 100 points, it's still awful. And we're seeing more layoffs, which means more retail stores are going to be closing, which means more layoffs, which means the factories, they don't need to produce. If they're not producing, they don't need the raw material. If they don't need the raw material, the Baltic Dry Index goes down. And this is what we're starting to see. Bill Holter is out there saying, we are witnessing right now the credit structure unwinding. The whole thing is breaking down. And he says it has to be done on purpose, because no one in their right mind would put these type of policies into place, because they're steering us into the ditch. And this is exactly what they're doing. They're setting up the economy so they can easily just pull the plug and bring it down. But remember, when they do this, they're not going to be blaming themselves. They don't want people in the world blaming them. They will make it look like another group, another country caused all of this. This is why every time the market goes down or bad economic indicators come out, what do? Oh, it's Saudi Arabia. Oh, it's China. It's because oil is very low. It's because of this, that, and the other thing. And every time they point the finger, they say, but don't worry, the U.S. is fine. That's why we raised interest rates. Don't you believe us? The economy's doing fine. Everything's perfect. Now we know there's a huge amount of debt. As of January 26th, the debt hit about $18.93 trillion. Now that's the debt they're telling us. Many put the debt estimate at around $200 trillion or so. But the International Monetary Fund, back in 2013, posed an idea and said this would be really good for the people. And you know, every time they say that, it's never good for the people. All we need to do is we need to confiscate citizens' assets. Not all their assets, just enough to bring down the debt a little bit. They can't get rid of all the debt. They only want it to be brought down a little bit because their business, their product is debt. And if we bring it down a little bit, we can chug along a little bit longer and they can put more countries into debt. That's how this works. So back in 2013, they made this announcement saying that, listen, we can tax everyone on their wealth. And I think they came out with something like 10%. Today, they want to do the same thing. Asset seizures. They just want to make the debt sustainable. And they're calling on everyone to pitch in, to help them. Remember, the debt is really theirs. The debt was created by them. We didn't ask for all this military spending. We didn't ask for all this aid to go to different countries. We, the people, we don't need any of this. This is the central bank pushing governments, controlling what they do to spread more debt. And what they want now is everything you have. And eventually, they're going to come and try to get it. And it's called bail-ins. Everything has been set up for this time period. When the moment is right, when a weekend comes up on a Friday, and it's time to pull the plug, the banks will shut down. Capital controls will be in effect. No one will be able to get their funds. They know exactly what they're doing with this. They've been very careful in planning. They've created the documents. They've implemented the documents. And they will use everything that they've done when the time is right. And it's not the choosing of the people. It's the choosing of when they want this to be done. They are in full control of this collapse, unless something comes out of left field. And this is why they're working so hard right now to set everything up to get ready to bring it down. Right now, the BRICS are celebrating, Brazil, Russia, India, China, because the IMF right now, because the IMF 2010 quota and the reforms that the U.S. promised back in 2010, that they were going to give more voting rights to the BRIC nations. But something very interesting about this, even though the BRICS have more voting rights, the United States still has 16.74%, and Japan has 6.23%, enough still to veto. The BRIC countries only have 14.7%, and they don't have enough to veto anything. So the United States is still in control of this, and the BRICS get a little bit more of the voting percentage, but not enough to veto anything. And we see Saudi Arabia right now with OPEC saying there's no plans to meet with Russia. There's no plan to cut production right now. And it seems like they're continually pushing trial balloons to see how the economy would react if they did cut production. Almost like when the Fed was getting ready to raise rates, they continually put that out there. They wanted to see how the market reacted, get everyone used to it. And it seems like this is what Saudi Arabia is doing right now. And remember, Saudi Arabia is continually pushing out oil. We have a glut of oil on the market. And when they cut production, prices will go up, and it will allow them to unload their treasuries. And it seems like this is where they are headed. And if we hear that Saudi Arabia cuts production, we are that much closer to the collapse. And everyone at that point better start ramping up what they're doing in preparation. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.